Hey guys, and welcome back to the Graceful Tangle YouTube channel. I am beyond excited about today's video because I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the Polychromatic blanket. I have been designing this blanket for the past 10 months, but it is finally out and I am so excited about it. Now it's important to note that this tutorial is designed to guide you along the process of making this blanket and just to kind of use it as an aid. I'm not showing you step by step how to crochet this blanket necessarily, like I'm not making this actual blanket. I am making a much smaller sample, but it's to be used, like I said, as an aid. It'll show you the basic techniques that are used in this pattern and how to crochet each individual square, as well as the border and the join as you go technique. So I hope you find it helpful. Be sure to stay until after the tutorial for some tips and tricks on this blanket. Alrighty, so for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be making a much smaller sample of this blanket. I'm going to be doing a total of 4 squares, and then I will also show you how to do the border. So in my case, this is really just going to be kind of a coaster, so you're more than welcome to make exactly what I'm about to make along with me to kind of practice, get a hang of the technique before you start the blanket, even make a little coaster for yourself. It's just kind of a fun way to learn this blanket. But of course, just be sure to substitute the right directions for the pattern. So I'm going to be walking you through it step by step, so don't be confused at all by that. Alrighty, so we're going to start off with a slip knot. Now again, like I said, for my sample, I'm going to be making it much smaller. The actual chain counts and stitch counts and all of that is in the pattern, so be sure to have that downloaded and even print it out and right beside you while I'm doing this tutorial is going to be very helpful. So I highly recommend doing that. Now for the sample, I'm going to chain 11, and this is going to be the start of square 1, column 1. So I'm going to chain 11 stitches, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, just like that. And now I'm going to start off by single crocheting in each stitch across. So I'm going to insert my hook into the second stitch from the hook. So we're going to skip that first chain. It's going to be treated as our turning chain, and then we're going to single crochet in each stitch across, just like normal. This is a really beginner friendly pattern, and we're just going to single crochet all the way across. Alrighty, I have single crocheted across the first row, and that is the completion of row 1. Now for row 2 and every other row for this first square, we are simply going to chain 1 and turn and single crochet in each stitch across, just like so. Now I'm going to repeat this until I have 10 rows, but again, the actual row count is in the pattern. Basically you want to go until you have an exact square, unless you want to make like rectangle shapes. That would be super cute too, and then you can just do however many rows you would like. So I'm going to keep single crocheting rows until I have 10 total rows, and then I will meet you back here. Okay, so I am just about to complete row 10 of my first square. Now I meant to mention this in the first section before I left you to complete it, but that is totally okay. On the last stitch, we are going to switch to the second color for the second square. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the next stitch like normal, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So we have worked half of our single crochet stitch. Now I'm going to clip this yarn. We can cut it, we're done with it, just like that. And now I'm going to bring up my second color, which for me is going to be this gray, and I'm going to join it to work my second square. So I'm just going to yarn over using the new color and pull through both loops. So now we have completed that last single crochet, completed our first square, and switched to color 2. Now we are ready to begin square 2. Now we're going to continue all of the instructions for square 2 until we have the total 10 squares for our column. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, I am going to be making a much smaller version. I'm only going to have 4 squares just to make it to where you can see the entire project for the duration of this tutorial, and also easier for myself, for filming purposes, of course. So for square 2, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Again, we're using that new color. Now, something that I highly recommend in this pattern, just for simplicity's sake, when the blanket is closer to being done, I could not stress enough how amazing it is to single crochet over your ends. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick because it's super simple and it just makes it to where you can trim them and be done. You don't have to weave in any extra ends. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch right here, and we're simply going to single crochet in each stitch across just like normal. Now to crochet over your ends, I've already inserted my hook into the first stitch. Now I'm just going to lay the ends over the hook as well, and then I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, just like a normal single crochet. I'm going to do that a few more times in each stitch, just crocheting over those ends to weave them in nice and securely. I'll do one more, and there we go. And now I can simply put my work to the wrong side and trim them. There really isn't a right or wrong side to this pattern, so I just kind of suggest cutting your ends close to the stitch so that it can truly be reversible. Okay, and then I'll slide that out of the way, and we have now woven in our ends and cut them so we don't have to worry about them moving forward. You could also just weave them in like this and then cut all of them at the same time. That's a really diligent way to do that too, so whatever floats your boat is completely fine. So I'm going to keep single crocheting in each stitch across, and I'm almost to the end here. And that is the conclusion for row 1. Now we're going to do the same exact thing we did for the first square. We are simply going to single crochet in each stitch across until we have a total of 10 rows. So again, I'm going to work until I have 10 rows, and then I will meet you back here. Now, like I said, again, I'm making a smaller version. If you are following this tutorial and you are making the actual blanket, you'll repeat, switching to the next color on the very last stitch of row 10 or 24 if you're following the actual pattern, and continue until you have 10 total squares. Now, if you are doing it like me and you're going to finish it off after this second square, you're going to do just that. You're going to cut your yarn over and pull through and finish it off just like you would for a traditional project. So I'm going to go work until I have 10 rows, and then I will meet you back here and show you at the next step. Okay, so I just finished row 10 of my third square here, and I'm ready to begin my last one. Now, like we did for the first column, we are going to go ahead and switch to our next color. So I'm actually going to take out this stitch so that I just have half of the stitch complete. I will cut this third color and join my very last color, which is going to be this mint green here. And I'm going to continue with my fourth square. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through to finish that first, or that single crochet there, excuse me. And now I'm ready to begin the next square. Now, exactly the same as this one, we are simply going to repeat this second square all the way up our entire column. So just pay attention to these instructions so that you know how to continue with however long you have decided to make your blanket. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And just like I did before, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet over these ends. So I'm inserting my hook into the first stitch and then also over those 2 ends. And I'm going to do that a few more times to weave them in nice and securely. And this just makes it to where I don't have to worry about them in the future. And then aside from that, I am just going to single crochet in each stitch across. You should still have the same number that you started with. Alrighty, so I've made it to the end here. And I am ready to slip stitch across the next 2 rows. Now, keep in mind that because we have a new color started, we are also continuing on to the next square. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first row of this next square in the first column, or in the previous column. And then I'm also going to slip stitch into the row after that to result in 2 slipped stitches. And now we're simply going to repeat the row 3 and 4 repeat that we did for the first square. So chain 1 and turn. I'm going to single crochet in each stitch across after skipping those 2 slip stitches, of course. And I'm almost to the end. Alrighty, and then I will chain 1 and turn and single crochet in each stitch across again until we get to the very end of our work and have reached that side square. And then once we have reached that side square again, we will slip stitch twice. So again, slip stitch into the next row, and then slip stitch into the row after that. Super, super simple. I absolutely love this joining technique. And again, chain 1 and turn, skip those 2 slip stitches, and single crochet all the way across. And it's that simple. So I'm going to repeat this until, again, I have a total of 10 rows. And then I'll meet back here, and I will show you how to work the slip stitch border. Of course, pretending that my little sample is done. Yours, I know, will take you a lot more than that, but it's the same general technique. So I'm going to go finish up this square, and then I will show you the last step. Okay, so I have 2 more rows left in this square, and I've decided to come back to show you how to complete it if you were completing a column yourself. So just like normal, I'm going to slip stitch into these last 2 rows, just like this. And that last slip stitch should be in that very last stitch that you did on the previous square. Chain 1 and turn like normal and skip those 2 slip stitches, and then single crochet in each stitch across. Now once we get to the end of the row here, we will cut our yarn and proceed to the super cute and simple slip stitch border. So there's my last stitch. I'm going to cut my yarn just like so. Yarn over and pull through to finish that off, and then flip it over so that the right side is facing. Like I said, there's really not a definite right or wrong side, but I really like having the first row of this bottom row be on the right side. So now I am ready to begin my slip stitch border. So I am going to grab my border color, which the label is flying off. There we go. And I am ready to begin. So simply insert your hook into any stitch or row on any side of the blanket. I'm just going to join it to a random part here on the side. And then we're going to insert a hook and pull up a loop. Now we are simply going to slip stitch in every single stitch and row across. So I'm going to make that nice and secure. And then I'm going to insert my hook into this next row and work a slip stitch. And because I'm on the side, I'm going to keep doing that. So insert your hook into the next row, yarn over, and pull through to create a slip stitch. Now you want to keep these nice and loose so that they look even and so that it doesn't make it too snug. And you can of course do any border that you'd like. You do not have to do the slip stitch border if you prefer the look of something else. Do note though, if you are doing the slip stitch border and you're using the yarn recommended in the pattern that again is specifically designed for, you will only use 1 ball. But if you decide to do a different type of border, you might use more than 1. So just be sure to keep that in mind. And in each corner, I'm going to work 2 slip stitches just to make it a little bit more rounded. So I'm going to work 1 slip stitch and then 2. And like I said, that's just going to make it a little bit more rounded, resulting in a nicer edge. And then I'm going to continue slip stitching in every single stitch across. And I'm going to repeat this all the way around my project until I am back to the beginning. Alrighty, so I finished my slip stitch border and then just joined to the very first stitch and wove in all of my ends. So my little sample is now complete and you are ready to begin your own blanket or just continue it if you've been following this pattern this video throughout. I hope you found it helpful. Stay tuned to the end of the video for some tips and tricks on this blanket. So I hope you found that tutorial helpful and useful. Now, like I said, I do have a couple of tips and tricks that I would like to share with you guys about this exact blanket. Now, I have linked the yarn set that I used down in the description box below. I highly recommend using it for this blanket. This blanket was specifically designed using that set. It was used to give makers something to create because I know that this exact set, at least for me, I've seen it in multiple places. And it's kind of tricky to know what to make with each and every one of those little bitty mini skeins. But this was such a fun project and I cannot recommend it more. So, like I said, I've linked that down below. Now, on that same note, it is very important that you meet exact gauge for this pattern because I use almost every single inch of all of the skeins of yarn. I had a little bit left over. It's not like you're going to run out of every single one. That is not what happened to me. But like I said, it's important to meet gauge to ensure that that doesn't happen. Because each square is made with a different color of yarn, you only use each color once, which is really exciting, but you use almost all of that color. So I just recommend matching gauge as close as possible. Now, all of that being said, you are more than welcome to substitute any yarn that you would like for this project. It's completely customizable. You could change the stitch counts and row counts to do a bulky weight version, a worsted weight version, a fingering weight version. You can change up the length, of each square to make it as long as you want it to be. You can use a different border. So I used a slip stitch border. You could do whatever border that you want. I really encourage you to have fun with this blanket. If you don't have the exact same set of yarn that I did and you still want to make this blanket, definitely go for it. Use scraps, use the technique to create something completely different. I have a video that is showing you the technique only and how to kind of customize it based on what you want to make. So I recommend checking out that video. Again, that is also linked down below. Now, like I said, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I hope you absolutely love this blanket. I am so excited to see your future blankets and hear your thoughts. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Check out all of the links down in the description box below. And until next time, happy making. Bye.